difficult to identify because there was no record of them logging in anywhere. And it was through information provided by a friend, a family member, coworker, whatever the case may be, that they haven't been found. Even though we are reporting 97 people missing, there's no certainty that all 97 of those people were swept away by the storm. That point aside, to more specifically answer your question, and that is, the goal obviously is to continue to find those who are alive. For those who have passed away, it's so important to closure for their families, that we find them and identify them. Sometimes it does require using DNA testing to identify who they are and identify who their family is, to make sure that we connect appropriately, correctly, the family member with the person who lost their lives. And sometimes that takes a few days to complete that process.
Governor, given understandably so that Kirk County, the damage that they sustained, they received a lot of attention, especially federal assistance. But what about here in Travis County? They were added late kind of to that declaration. What was that process like to try to get them added to be able to receive federal assistance?
Sure. So it is truly a mathematical construct that Chief Kidd has mastered. I'm going to have him answer that question in general, but also for Travis County.
Yep. So great question, and thank you for that. Two parts to it. One is the governor's declaration. There was no delay in getting these counties on the governor's declaration once we knew that they were in the target area. That's part one. Part two is the individual assistance for both of these counties, which is the money that goes and is made available to homeowners and renters, is already turned on in these counties as well. What we're working through right now is the public assistance, and that is a mathematical equation, as the governor said, based on the population of a county and the amount of damage that FEMA can certify in that county. The less populated counties have a much smaller threshold, $500,000, $600,000, versus millions of dollars for these two populated counties. I am confident both counties have met their threshold, and I would bet by today or tomorrow we get answers back on these counties. I also want to say that does not delay any of the work that's going on. Waiting for those federal declarations to come in does not slow down rescue, does not slow down search, does not slow down additional law enforcement or additional fire protection or emergency medical services, nor has it been slowing down the debris removal, getting roads and driveways opened up. So don't mix the declaration with the response, please. Thank you for the question.
Governor, are you saying backlog at medical examiner's offices, and so is there any work being done as sort of piece that we're going for?
So I'll tell you this, the medical examiner's offices have been working pretty well and pretty timely. There was a backlog and there were challenges because of local JPs in Kerr County that were slowing things down, holding things up, and it required pressure from the state and others to make sure that they began to expedite that process. When a life is lost, that family wants access to their loved one as quickly as possible. It was inexcusable for some local JPs to slow that process down. But as far as medical examiners are concerned, I've heard no complaints about the speed with which they're working.
Governor, when you were at the Big Sandy Creek meeting and talking with people there, a lot of them were frustrated. They, of course, wanted help to come the day before. What was the feel that you got in talking with those people, and did you feel that they heard you, and did you hear them?
So I met with, I don't know how many people, more than a dozen. And the first impression and the strongest impression I got was one of gratitude. They were happy that we were there, happy with everything we were doing. They were grateful for the temporary bridge that had been built. The other way to describe it is unity. They were unified. It was those people who lived there. They came up and said, listen, we're community. We're Texas strong. We're hanging together. And they're neighbor helping neighbor. And so I was impressed once again with the strength and commitment and moral clarity of our fellow Texans for uniting at a time as tough as this is.
And a follow-up to this, and it builds on what Chief was talking about and Assistant Chief over here. The response from other states has been amazing. We've got teams that are now picking up the load, letting the local guys get back to the basic service. And it's not necessarily basic, it's still important service. How important is having this heavy lifting going on from all these other states? So these guys here, Travis County ESD1 being one of them, getting back to basic services.
Everything all these other states is doing is extremely important. If I could say that one was more important than another, it would be what they are all doing in search and rescue operations. As Chief Kidd noted, our number one goal is protecting lives and finding lives. When I was at Big Sandy Creek, I met with search and rescue teams from Florida who were there in the water, working all day long to locate anybody they can find. That requires heavy volume. It requires manpower, walking every inch of it could be a creek, a river, whatever the case may be, to ensure that they are scouring every inch of earth in the state of Texas where a body could be found. And it is benefited or aided by search dogs. And whenever we've had dog teams that have flown in from other states across the entire country. And so the response that we've been able to provide, especially as it concerns search and rescue operations, has been magnified many times over because of these teams who have stepped in from other states and given us the extra manpower as well as other resources to make sure we're better capable and quicker at taking on that task.
Governor, do you have the current number of how many are missing in Kerr County? It was reported earlier that it was around 160 people, and you said that 97 were missing in the greater Kerrville area. Do you have the current number in regards to how many are missing in
So,
Kerr County?
yeah, I'm going to give you the number. So the number I read to you, it was given to me by Chief Nim Kidd, and he was on a phone before we came in here, and I'll let him explain this number.
Yep, thank you. So the number that we got from the Texas Department of Public Safety is 97 missing from the Guadalupe River flooding. That does not count the numbers that the governor read to you from the 3 counties that were here earlier. I think that'll put the total statewide at about 101 total, if I have that right.
What he means by Guadalupe River, most of those are in Kerr County. I think there has been some in Kendall County.
Yes.
Governor, you serve on President Trump's FEMA Review Council. How has this experience shaped your views on the future of FEMA, should it be phased out?
So one thing I think most, let's say governors, most state officials, as well as the federal government could agree upon, and that is we needed improvements in FEMA. And it needed to be what I call right-sized so that it would be more nimble, quicker in the response, but also understanding that it's the locals who know what is best in responding to a disaster. And local is defined by these local communities, whether it be Leander or Travis County or Williamson County, whatever the case may be. They're the ones on the ground, and they know their communities far better than anybody else, and they know how to respond to their communities. And it's the state and federal government that work to provide them the additional resources they need to accomplish their goal. Here's the point. But by working on the reforms that we will work with FEMA and with the presidential team on, we're going to work to find ways to streamline the process, cut through all the red tape, to ensure that even when we do that, the monetary resources that we are receiving now that are much needed for things like having the emergency first responders or debris removal or search and rescue operations, those will still be funded, but we will have the ability to do it a whole lot faster, a whole lot quicker without waiting around for the federal government.
Last question.
Governor, with all due respect to your complete funding, but I did want to ask separately. On the weekend, Secretary Christensen said that she's in talks with 5 actually U.S. states who have state detention facilities for immigration purposes. I'm asking Texas in conversations with versus the federal government with immigration detention staff.
So I haven't had a direct conversation with her. I do know that Texas has offered detention facilities. I've signed what's called a 287G law that was passed in the session that requires local jails to work with Homeland Security. Listen, we want to do everything we can to make sure that those who are here legally are allowed to remain legally. Those who are here illegally, they'll be turned over to ICE.